welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and today I'm joined by Indicio's Foundations team lead, Daniel Bluhm, and he is here to discuss enterprise-ready solutions versus DIY when it comes to decentralized digital identities. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Daniel. If you wouldn't mind, could you start us off with a quick explanation of what we mean when we say enterprise-ready, right? I feel like that's a fairly broad term.
Right. Yeah. So enterprise ready, I think, means it's ready to go. It's battle tested. It's up to date. It's scalable. It's ready to do what you need to do as an enterprise.
All right, sounds good. So I know right, Indicio offers an enterprise-ready solution. If we could go through, four proven, what makes it so enterprise-ready, and how do we stay on top of new and evolving regulations like the new EUDI and the ITIS stuff coming out of Europe?
Yeah. EIDAS and the EUDI efforts coming out of Europe. There's a lot going on there. And in general in the digital identity space, even beyond the EU efforts. As a non-exhaustive list, if you wanted to stay up on these developments, you'd have to be watching I don't know, let's see, there's the IETF SPICE working group, there's the OAuth working group, there's OpenID Foundation, and within that there's the digital credential protocols, and then the OpenID Connect working groups. There's multiple specs from ISO, including 18013-5, 18013-7. There's a whole bunch coming out under the 23220. Um, what else? We've got the W3C with the VC working group and the DID working group. And that's like, I've only gone through like three different organizations, and there's more than that. Yeah. So if you want to keep on top of all this stuff, you really have to be paying attention to so many different streams of consciousness of all these conversations going on. Um, my inbox is full of the mailing lists for each of these communities. So in DCO, we're involved in a lot of these working groups directly. Some in leadership roles, others were just participants, and in others were just lurking, paying attention, but not really directly involved at this point. But where we're not leading, we're still keeping that close eye on the developments and in particular how that will impact our clients. Um, so we're actively monitoring all of these efforts right now with a focus on implementing the credential formats and the exchange protocols that our clients care about. So we've gone through and we've implemented OpenID for VC, both the issuance and presentation. We've implemented SDJOT. We're pushing in the direction that the EUDI efforts are going. Yeah, so that's really the benefit of our solution is that we're doing all of this work for you. We're keeping track of it and we're building it into our solution, so it's ready to go.
All right, sounds good. So let's talk a little bit about DIY or do it yourself, where you have a team, you tell them, hey, we want this functionality, and you send them out there to go do it. I'm curious if you've seen that a lot, how long that usually takes, what the process would be for someone that did want to roll up their sleeves and do it themselves.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Indicio team, like we're really passionate about working with the open source community. In a lot of ways, we are making it easier for you to do it yourself if you wanted to. A lot of our efforts to support these new standards are going directly back to projects like Occupi. Um, the Occupi community is healthy and thriving, and by contributing back to it, we in turn derive a lot of benefit from the contributions of others within the community. And we're all collaborating to break down those barriers to make it easier to build these solutions and help this space continue to grow and to exist. Um, but at the end of the day, it would honestly be a mistake not to work with the community. Starting from scratch would be a really long road. So that being said, even when you're building on top of Occupi and these other open source projects that are available, there's quite a bit more to do to have a complete solution. It takes time to set up infrastructure, it takes time to set up agents and controllers, the business logic associated with it, and so on. The open source solution is not complete. It has to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. That's how we continue to survive as a project, is we continue to bring in contributions. Um, but because of that, it can't focus on a use case like travel or finance or whatever. It has to be as general as possible. So Yeah. If you wanted to come in and build on top of these open source solutions, you still have a long ways to go.
All right. I mean, obviously, it kind of varies by solution and use case, but I'm curious if you could give us kind of a time frame or amount of hours it would take you to build something like this.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen and at times even helped some of our customers DIY it before. It can be done. It is a long road, like I said. There's like all this context and knowledge that you really need to download before you can even like get started. Um, and then once you get started, and then once you get to the point where like you've implemented everything where it is now, um, that's not where it's going to be tomorrow. Like things are continuing to change. So yeah, I mean, if you were gonna do it yourself, you're looking at like easily 6 to 12 months in my opinion. So yeah.
All right. Sounds good. So you mentioned that you have worked with people trying to do it themselves. I'm curious what your experience has been with customers that, have tried it and how that went for them if they came to Indicio afterwards to be like, hey, we just we want it to work. How do we get it working?
Right. Right. Yeah. It certainly has been that response, I would say. Just the context downloading part by itself, like getting to the point where you understand like all the different pieces and how they need to fit together. Um, like I said, it takes a while. So once they've kind of gotten over that and then they realize how much more there is still to go, that's kind of the point where they turn to us and they're like, okay, you've already got something that does all this stuff that we were trying to build. So please help us. Yeah.
Awesome. So for context, right, you said 6 to 12 months easily to DIY a project. How long does it take for an enterprise-ready solution like Proven to get set up and start doing whatever you want to be doing?
Yeah. I mean, it does depend a little bit on the complexity of your use case and whether your team is responsible for the deployment or ours is. But generally, we're talking somewhere from 12 to 48 hours.
Wow.
So yeah,
All right, awesome. That's super quick. Uh,
yeah.
so we talked a little bit about interoperability between, all the different specs going on. What about integrating it into existing systems, right? Like if we already have an identity access management or whatever we want to do, we just want to start using verifiable credentials and, decentralized identity. How does that work? How do you get started with something like that?
Yeah, so integrating with Proven is pretty straightforward. It's just another API and a a REST-based API that's well documented. So you don't have to pull everything out that you had in your previous stack. You can just augment and add the functionality where it makes sense. Um, we've got a product called Proven Auth as well that like integrates seamlessly into existing OpenID Connect enabled systems as well. So if you want to get into credentials without going super deep on like a whole verification and issuance ecosystem, you just want to do login on your website, we can do that.
Very cool. So I'm curious, right? Obviously, as these credentials are constantly evolving, it feels like you would need to basically be constantly working with customers to make sure their systems are up to date and they're using the latest thing and has the latest functionality, all that stuff. I'm curious how Indicio manages that, and how we really try to go the extra mile to make sure that our customers, can always be on the cutting edge of whatever's new with verifiable credentials.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a big part of that is just keeping our clients informed about everything that's been going on. Like I said, we track all of the community updates and the changes to these specs as they occur. So a big part of it is we're doing all of that heavy lifting for you. Um, I personally spend a whole lot of time and attention tracking these community working groups, but basically every single person on the Indicio tech team participates in at least one working group or another to keep track of developments as they change and to make sure that we are able to incorporate that and then to bring that back to our customers. Um, so yeah, extremely dynamic landscape. So going that alone uh, would just be a huge challenge. And so I think that alone, Indicio is going a couple of extra miles for the client to keep on top of just everything that's happening there. But on top of that, Indicio does offer training through the Indicio Academy. We also work directly with your staff. we're down in the trenches with our customers when there's a demo that needs to happen, and they've got problems. We're gonna make it work out for them, even if it's not, you know, our fault, as it were. Like if the issue's on their side, we're gonna be in the trenches with you and doing the long hours to make sure that they're successful and they're able to pull it off. Um, so yeah, we also offer some other services beyond tech as well with some governance, marketing, and event support. Um, yeah, I think we've even been involved in some advising on legislation and such. So Indicio has a lot to offer its customers.
All right, sounds good. So we are coming to the end of our time here. I'm curious, just going back to DIY versus, a ready solution. What are any parting thoughts on, the benefits of each, why you might want to go with one over the other or anything like that?
So Indicio has been involved in the open source community for a long time at this point. We're trusted and recognized leaders in the open source community. We're really passionate about keeping that moving forward and developing these protocols and doing it with our community. That knowledge has made it possible for us to build an enterprise-ready solution where you don't have to worry about all the things that we worry about. Um, yeah, so it might, you know, save you some money in the short term to, pick up Akapai and try to build something on top of it. But in the long term, you know, you're gonna be spending a lot more effort and time, building up on top of Akapai than if you were to just pick something up off the shelf. Um, so yeah, that's what we have on offer, is just a, off the shelf, ready to go. Just plug it in and we'll get you going in hopefully 12 to 48 hours. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Daniel. Really been fun talking to you today. If you at home are interested in decentralized identity and verifiable credential technology, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to bring you some more educational content. And if you have any specific topics or questions that you'd like for us to cover, please be sure to leave them in a comment below or reach out to us at indicio.tech. Thank you all for watching.